It don't seem normal to me for a man that don't even preach sermons to do a eulogy for a boy that he didn't know.
Okay, we're going off the rails, guys.
Why would they have a civil rights attorney? They're not being accused of anything.
They are being accused. They are being accused.
Who's accused them?
They are accused.
Who has accused
Al
them?
Sharpton, Benjamin Crump. They put these boys' pictures out on the internet and said he went out, and they framed it as he went out just with them. And something happened, and we know something happened, and why they hiding phones and doing all this? He's accusing them before any evidence is presented.
That's not an accusation.
A statement of suspicion, some people would say, is an accusation.
Before we get back to the show, I want to tell you guys about Synergy. If you're tired of energy drinks that spike you up, make you jittery, and then crash you later, Synergy is built differently. Synergy Day gives you clean, steady energy and focus with natural caffeine from green tea. Synergy Night helps you wind down so that you can rest, you can wake up clean, not groggy. It's a simple day and night system made with natural ingredients, no sugar spikes, and no synthetic stimulant overload. Go to synergylife.com and try it for yourself. Better energy, better rest, better rhythm.
Officer Tatum, you personally interviewed, you traveled to Mississippi, from my understanding, to personally interview one of the young men who left the island without Nolan. Why should the public trust whatever account is coming from them right now, in your estimation, based on what you've learned? First things first, I shouldn't say that. First things first, what did you deduce from the conversation you had from one of the friends that was with Nolan Wells? What did you take away from that you'd like the public to know?
Well, Stephen A., I want to make sure this is clear. I actually spoke to all the boys that were being accused. I spoke to family members. I spoke to also their attorneys. It's just that the one young man had the, I wouldn't say courage, because others had reasons why they didn't want to come on the camera, but he was able to come on the camera, and I interviewed him. And I also interviewed another young man who was black, who was there, who had his own personal accounts of what happened. I'm not asking people to believe or not believe. I just wanted to give people the information. So nobody had heard from the young boys. Nobody had heard their accounts. And a lot of misinformation was put out there, some intentionally, some maybe not intentionally, but it was very detrimental and not conducive for the investigation into Nolan Wells' death. It was punitive. They came out and started with race. It had to be something nefarious because these boys are white for any other reason. So I wanted to go out and hear the full story. And what I deduced from the interview and talking to everybody is that these young boys had nothing to do with what ended up happening to Nolan Wells. And also they were best friends. I mean, these kids had so many pictures, so many text messages of them being closer to Nolan than any other friend group. And also one thing that shocked me was that this was an island, not secluded, not an island with 5 or 6 people on it. It was an island where there was thousands of people there, hundreds of boats, and also a lot of people could verify the statements that was made from some of these young men. So I really wish that we could have started at a point to say, what happened to Nolan Wells? Let's work together as a community. Let's talk to these young men, talk to other people, and let's find out what happened to Nolan instead of jumping the race.
Officer Tatum, how do you know that it was misinformation that was put out there? How did you come to the conclusion that something was misinformation? Explain that. Well, is it just according to their account or something else?
No. Initially, I knew it was hogwash because when Al Sharpton and them got on TV, they automatically made an inference to say, well, it was something that had to happen because these kids were white. It was white kids with one black boy. I mean, there's no evidence to project that unless you believe every white person is nefarious in their dealings with black people. And so I thought that was suspicious on his face. And then they said that Nolan was the only black kid. He was not the only black kid. Many of his black friends were also at the island with him. So, some of those things that started to come out, I knew that they were not being truthful.
I am not going to ignore the facts, which you just pointed out. These are facts. He may have been with other black people, but we have seen the pictures, we have seen the photos. There were a number of people who were gathered out there for the July 4th holiday, but Nolan Wells was with 3 boys who happened to be white. Those are facts.
He was with, but the thing is that it's facts without context. He was with more than just 3 white boys. That's the problem. There was over 20, 30 kids that got on 3 boats, and they all went to the island together. They didn't just travel with Nolan and just these 3 boys. Many of the boys that they're accusing, including Warren, wasn't even on the boat with Nolan. when Nolan went out to the island. So some of those things were mischaracterizations of what actually happened. And the thing is that I don't think it's fair to say, because history has shown in part that white people or black people have had injustices, that all of a sudden you project that into a new situation. Black people have done nefarious things to other black people. Does that mean that you automatically jump to saying, oh, black people must be wrong in this situation? You know, because he had his black friends there too. And why nobody's questioning them? Why nobody's saying, why didn't the black friends rescue him? What did the black kids know about Nolan? And many of them said that they saw him last when the white boys had left at 4:30. So I just think that the race should never be interjected. Nolan's friends told me, and they proved to me that they were really close to him and they were some of his best friends. They said Nolan would have been incredibly upset at the way people are framing his death and going after his friends with no evidence.
What do you say to folks that will ask this kind of a question? He's on a boat, he's on an island, and according to numerous reports, he talked about staying behind and traveling back with a different set of company. Yet his car keys and his phone was left on a boat that he had traveled to those guys with. So what teenager do you know is saying he's staying someplace, but he's going to leave his car keys and his phone on the boat with the guys that he arrived at the island with? That does seem a bit suspicious, particularly when the guy's mother, Nolan Wells' mother, had to use some app to locate the phone, and it was something that wasn't given back. These are reports. I'm not pretending to know, Officer Tatum. These are what the report said. What do you say to that?
And this is where I feel like Benjamin Crump and them should be sued for them putting out this information without facts. Let me point the facts out. Without context, it sounds bizarre. But when you put it in the context that a lot of people left their phones on the boat that left. Many kids came to get their phone after they left the lake. Nolan was with a girl. It's not shocking that Nolan would have said, hey, man, you guys had to leave, because they had to leave in an emergency situation. It wasn't like they had time to prep and everything. The boat was sinking, so they had to go. And they told Nolan, get on the boat, get on the effing boat, man, let's go. And he like, nah, I'm finna hang out with this girl. I saw evidence of that, and others who had sent messages that I read that said that they asked Nolan to go and he didn't want to go. Now, a lot of people left their phones on the boats because they're sitting in chest deep water, and it's a bunch of people out there. The reception is not very good, so most people did not have their phone with them. Now, the phone and the keys situation, people need to understand the context. Nolan never brought his keys with him, because they were on a boat driving 7 miles out to an island. His keys had always been at the residence where his car was. So when the guys go back, they text Nolan's mother. This is where it ticks me off. They showed me a phone call where immediately the first phone call that was made concerning Nolan was Warren called Nolan's mom, and she hung up the phone on him the first time because she didn't know who he was. The second call, he told her, hey, Nolan haven't come back. Do you know? Have you heard from him? And then they called the Coast Guard. So his mother was very much aware that they had Nolan's phone. His mother did not have to track the phone through Life 360. His mother didn't come get the phone. Another parent of a black kid who was out there with Nolan came to get her son's phone and Nolan's phone. So why didn't Al Sharpton or any of them ask these boys what happened, have them show evidence, and then present it to the public? And it's because I think they wanted the race bait instead of trying to find out what happened to Nolan.
Do you know hold on, Charles. Do you know whether or not Al Sharpton and those guys had asked to talk to the kids and the kids refused to talk to them? Do you know whether there's any truth to that?
They told me that they haven't heard anything from Al Sharpton or anybody that tried to contact them. This is what they told me. Now, they showed me messages where parents had communicated and reached out to Benjamin Crump, his team, and said, we would love to communicate with you guys. Any questions you have, we want to talk to you guys so you can get the context. Also, they messaged Nolan's mother multiple times about communicating and saying, hey, if you need anything, if you want to talk, we can give you the context of what happened. And nobody reached out to these boys. And I saw evidence of this, which is what frustrated me about this in the first place.
What I will say about the overall situation is that for me, as a civil rights attorney, I am looking at this And I am saying that there needs to be a greater sense of transparency from the sheriff's department, because they are the ones who have spoken to most of the parties who have been involved in this case. They've conducted over 60 witness interviews. They've done the toxicology report. They have the autopsy. So these are the people who are truly equipped from an information place to give the public the most accurate picture. So I am not calling what you're putting out misinformation, but what I am saying is that that is just an equally biased and slanted point of view in the opposite way, because it lacks the full context. So because of that, let me finish. It's disingenuous intellectually, number one, to dismiss the notion of race, because that is choosing to ignore the history in America that we have faced. Number two, it's equally disingenuous to play a whataboutism to try and substitute the notion of black on black crime, which is a complete misnomer as to why we should not focus, or at least note, I won't even say focus, at least note the color issues that are at play with respect to what could or might have happened to Nolan Wells. Again, not necessarily being accusatory. And it's just as disingenuous for you to go further and say, well, we must assume, or it seems like Crump and Sharpton and everyone else was projecting the notion of race. That may have been your interpretation, which I cannot necessarily argue with, but it is just as problematic for you to suggest the polar opposite of that when none of us have conducted this full investigation. You have a limited sample size. I have a limited sample size. The public has been wrought with misinformation. So for me, the real issue here is a lack of transparency from the sheriff's office to give the public a complete picture.
Well, let me tell you where I disagree with you fully. As a former police officer, and I was a PIO, I dealt with all of these things. The police department is not an injustice when you say there's a lack of communication or transparency. The police department cannot put this information out there when you still have suspects at large. If they go and release some of this information and show their hands of what they know and don't know, then potential suspects will begin to destroy evidence. They'll start hiding. They'll start cleaning stuff. You don't want to give that information out to the public until you know for a fact that you've been able to communicate with every suspect that's out there. If you start putting out the autopsy prematurely, and it shows blunt force to the head, strangulation to the neck, then the people who have done this are going to make sure they hide the murder weapon. They're going to make sure they get their stories together and say, no, I didn't hit him in the back of the head. You don't want to project those things too prematurely. So there's no issue with transparency. And I'll say this: the reason that I'm talking about Al Sharpton and them is because the first thing that they said was that he was there with white boys, therefore there had to been something. And then it goes back historically. Some of them compared this to the young man.
I've heard very different messages from them when they have said, we cannot assume that this is racist, but we cannot assume that it wasn't. So I'm going to correct you there.
Let me jump in here.
Who's that, Charles? Hold on. Charles, who said that? Who said that?
Literally during his eulogy, Al Sharpton said,
we
cannot assume that this was racist, and he said, we can also not assume that it wasn't.
Take your time. Take your time. Hold on, guys, take your time. Ain't nothing getting edited out. Don't worry about it. Trust me. All of it is, I'm not editing a damn thing. Go ahead, Officer Tatum, floor is yours.
Well, let me interject. When you are looking for justice for your child in a criminal case, meaning that somebody committed a crime against your child, why do you go out and get a civil rights attorney? These Benjamin Crump and them are known for going after these cases, specifically in injustices against black people.
Let me try first. Okay, go ahead.
No, that's fair. No, that's fair, Charles. Go ahead.
I'm a former prosecutor. I'm a civil rights attorney. Please understand how these things work. At the end of the day, when you're talking about quote unquote justice, the first reason why you get someone like Benjamin Crump is because he's a person who has experience with wrongful death lawsuits.
Black people.
So it's not about black people. No,
it is. Benjamin don't represent white people.
Please talk about that is completely false. That is
completely
completely false.
When was the last case he represented where he supported white people?
I'm not here to do your research for you.
No, you're the one saying it. I'm telling you it didn't happen.
But Benjamin Crump has a long-standing career of supporting people of all races and ethnicities when it comes to the violation of their civil
Give
rights,
me one.
as well as personal injury. So please let me answer your question.
Go ahead.
The reason why you get a civil rights attorney is because, number one, Benjamin Crump has extensive experience when it comes to wrongful death suits. Number two, in this situation, it is possible that there may be an element that Nolan Wells' civil rights were violated and that something may have happened to him because of his color, which is why you get a civil rights attorney, which is why you get a civil rights attorney. And so that is the answer to your question.
It's about
As
color.
a former prosecutor, you let the police and the sheriff's office deal with the notion of criminality, because that is one thing that Benjamin Crump can't do anything about.
But well, let's say this, brother. Can I jump in here?
That's why you go get someone like Benjamin Crump.
Why wouldn't the kids get civil rights? Like, for instance, people were saying, why did these kids lawyer up? Well, first of all, many of them didn't even have a lawyer. They went and talked to investigators and did a lie detector test equivalent with no lawyers. Okay, so but anyway, would you think it would be weird if these kids went out and got a civil rights attorney?
Why would they have a civil rights attorney? They're not being accused of anything.
They are being accused. They are being accused.
Who's accused them?
They are accused.
Who has accused
Al
them?
Sharpton. Benjamin Crump.
Show me where Al Sharpton has accused them of something.
All right, they said this is what they said.
Suspicious.
This is what they said. No. They said they put these boys' pictures out on the internet and said he went out, and they framed it as he went out just with them. And something happened, and we know something happened, and why they hiding phones and doing all this? He's accusing them before any evidence is presented.
That's not an accusation. That is
an accusation.
But
Charles,
it is a statement of suspicion. That is not an accusation.
Charles, hold on. Charles, let me chime in here. A statement of suspicion, some people would say, is an accusation. I understand from the legal, literal sense what you're saying. But talking amongst ourselves right now, when you say a statement of suspicion is not an accusation, that's not how people interpret a statement of suspicion. When you make a statement of suspicion, you're making an accusation. I mean, can we at least concede that? What's wrong with having your suspicions raised and saying, listen, we need some damn answers. Something ain't right. He was a healthy young 18-year-old and he didn't come home alive. How'd that happen? What's wrong with that?
Now, if they had context and all the information, and then they led with that, I would have no problem with it. But let me tell you this right now, Stephen A. Smith and Charles, I'm telling you right now, if a white boy was on an island with his black friends, all black, and some white folks put on a camera, that something must be suspicious because the one white boy is with all these black dudes, and something may have happened. We know that people covering it up and everything because these kids black. Man, we'd be pissed off on that. Ain't no way in the world I'd accept somebody saying, you gonna blame these black boys for doing something to this kid just because they black? That's insane. And that's what happened in this situation.
If a white boy had been on that boat with 3 black boys, we would have seen a very different.
Where's your evidence? Give me a case.
History.
No history. You say history can tell us everything.
We would have seen please let me finish my statement. We would have seen a very different.
Give me an example.
Of the Central Park, the exonerated 5.
Well, first of all, 5 of them didn't go to prison. It was Central Park 5. Only 4 of them went to prison.
It was actually 6 of them, and 5 of them went to prison. And I'm not.
And let me tell you how they went to prison.
I'm not going to quibble with you.
You won't give context.
One at a time, guys. One at a time.
You asked for an example. I'm not going to quibble with you and say, well, they're called the exonerated 5 and only 4 went to. I'm not going to do that. The exonerated 5. You wanted an example, I gave you an example.
That's not an equivalent example.
And there are other examples throughout history, starting with Emmett Till and going throughout
Are you comparing this to Emmett Till?
You asked me.
No. Are you saying that this is equivalent to Emmett Till?
You asked me for an example.
So you're saying that it's equivalent?
Where if reversed?
Okay. I'm gonna let you finish.
I'm telling you. I'm giving you examples. What I'm telling you is that if the situation were reversed, we would have seen a very different investigation from law enforcement from the actual outset. Let me interject. We as a people, when it comes as a former prosecutor, because here's the thing: you're a former police officer, and that's fine. But when it comes to after arrests are made and how prosecutions are going, that's my space. That's my lane. So I'm going to speak from my lane. And what I can tell you is We do not typically enjoy the benefit of the doubt when it comes to probable
That's
cause
not true.
for I'm telling you as a former prosecutor, I'm not going to tell you what it's like to
I
be a
arrest
I'm
people
not going to
and
tell
I
you
deal
what
with
it is.
prosecutors.
I'm not
I
going to
have
tell
to
you
do
what it
it.
is
I
to be
have
a
to
police
interview with the
officer.
prosecutors every time there's an arrest.
Officer,
We have
I'm
to go
not
to
going to
trial.
tell.
Go ahead, Officer Tatum. Floor is yours.
But what I'm saying is that you cannot project that. It's unfair to project that. You can have it in your subconscious that there has been things that have been done wrong, but you got to treat these things fairly. You cannot go out and project that somehow the sheriff is a racist and he's not going to do right by these boys. That's not right. Let
But
the
Officer
investigation
Tatum,
ensue, and then if you see impropriety in the investigation, then you
right.
can project that.
Respect.
But listen, they interviewed all of, you just said they interviewed 60 people. They interviewed all these boys the day of. Like, what did
Officer
they do
Tatum.
wrong? They did an
Officer,
autopsy.
Officer Tatum. Respectfully, what about those who would say the same or would ask the same question about you? Are you being fair? Because just like you have people out there that are elevating their level of suspicion and jumping to some sort of conclusion attached to guilt as it pertains to the death of Nolan Wells, you're coming across as somebody who's assuming these individuals that were in attendance with him were innocent because of your conversations with them, as opposed to not getting the full context the way Charles Coleman Jr. just highlighted.
No, yeah, I accept people saying that, but let me tell you that I saw proof. I'm not just taking somebody's account for it. And I'm not saying that nobody didn't kill Nolan. I'm telling you, the people that they put out on the internet and said these white boys were the only ones with him, and they're getting death threats. While I was out there, somebody sent the suspicious package to one of the boys' houses. They showing up at these boys' houses saying that they killed them. Go look on the internet and look at any these videos. They got the boy pictures up there saying they had something to do with his death. They're claiming they deleting text messages. All of this stuff is incredibly ridiculous. When I went out and I said, show me the proof then. Not just what you say, show me the proof. And these kids are showing proof. Their lawyers are showing proof that they had nothing to do with this. They have a Life 360 just like Nolan did. Their Life 360 showed that they were not on the island, or at least, you know, the young man that I interviewed, he wasn't even on the island. I saw his Life 360.
So,
I mean, these kids, they shouldn't have done these boys like this. They should let the investigation go and then make their accusations.
So you're highlighting specifically, you're not even saying, like you just said, you're not even saying that Nolan Wells, that some vile act, that he wasn't murdered. You're saying that these boys, those are the ones that are being unfairly scrutinized and villainized by this whole ordeal. That's what you're saying, Officer Tatum. Is that accurate?
Yes, Stephen A. There were black kids there who now getting threats online too for coming out and saying something. But nobody's saying, what did these black kids have anything to do with it? The young girl he was kicking it with, they don't have her name out there. Well, her name is Katie, but I'm not gonna say her full name. I don't want her to get doxxed. They not why nobody talking about her? She said she was the last one. I mean, she at least mentioned that she was with him. The boy showed me text messages from her that she's saying that she was with him. Like, why ain't nobody coming at her?
I can't imagine that legal team would look to bring a lawsuit without having attempted to at least try to get some investigative answers from these boys. Now, when in this process they do it is a different question, because at the end of the day, the more information you have, the more informed questions you can ask. And the chances are you're not going to get multiple bites at that apple. So from a strategic place, what I can tell you is that, yes, I would fully expect that at some point they would endeavor to reach out to these boys, but it may not be this point, because they may be waiting for additional information so that they can actually ask better questions. They're not going to get multiple chances to do it. So when you do it, you want to make sure that you're doing it the best way you can. And the only way to do that is to have the information that you need in order to ask the best questions.
Charles, they drugged these boys through the mother freaking mud. They put their faces online. Benjamin Crump shared this video, or this picture of them in a swimming pool. That happened. That event was a week before July 4th. He didn't do no due diligence to check with anybody before he started putting this stuff out there. Then what he do is he go, I had people saying that the argument was Nolan Wells asking for his phone back. He didn't talk to Tristan, who I interviewed. Tristan said on NBC, that was me, or ABC, that was me. That was not Nolan. But Benjamin Crump still to this day haven't came out and said, we found out that it was another young man. He pushed this stuff on these boys and they getting death threats. That stuff is not right. Benjamin should be more responsible. But the reason
I'm not
that
here
I
to talk
have
about Nolan Wells' lawyer. I'm here to talk about why Nolan Wells why Nolan Wells is dead.
But let's get
That's
to
fair.
that.
Let's
Let's
get
get
to
to that.
that.
Let's get to
Hold
that.
on,
Let's get to
That's
this.
the conversation.
Let's get to the phones.
Go ahead, go ahead.
The phones getting deleted. Because Al Sharpton came out there and said the mama had to go and search the phone down with GPS and Life 360. No, she didn't. The boys showed text messages, or the parents showed text messages of them communicating with his mom. She refused. And then they go and say they deleted. The boys say, the boys told me it could be not true or not. I don't know. They got to figure it out. They go, we didn't touch his phone. His phone went from the boat to the car with everybody else's phone. And when they came to get the phone, we got the phone out of the car and gave it to another young man's mom who came to get the other young man's phone. They said, we don't know Nolan's password. How will we get in his phone and delete anything? Now, why is them not coming on TV and saying there was no password or they had to get through his phone?
My question to you, Officer Tatum, and Charles, you can follow up based on the answer that he provides. My question to you is, why do you think the parents decided to go that route, Officer Tatum, based on your investigation in terms of allowing all of those folks to be so intimately involved in this situation? What are your thoughts about that? What comes to your mind, particularly based on your investigation, talking to the actual parties supposedly involved?
There's two thoughts that come to my mind. One is that Al Sharpton and Benjamin Crump are manipulating this family's trauma in order for them to make a crap ton of money. That's one. The second one is the parents trying to cash in on this because, and it's the reason why I say this. Why did Nolan Wells' mama say, I don't know these kids? These boys showed me pictures and video and text of them staying over his house, or at least the young boy Tristan, staying over his house multiple times. She went to school with one of the other boys' mama, graduated high school with her. They showed me the yearbook. Why is she saying this? Why? Al Sharpton don't know this boy. Why is he eulogizing him at his funeral? Ain't never met Nolan a day in his life. You know, why are they saying we're going to give $100,000 to somebody who give us information to lead to an arrest? What if Nolan drowned? They don't care about him drowning. You know, and then also, why we don't do this for any other young men who have lost their lives at the hands of other people other than white people? Why are we coming together?
Charles, I'm going to give you the floor. Charles, I'm going to give you the floor in a second. But Officer Tatum, it's one thing I want to make sure that I give you an opportunity to clarify, because it's one thing to feel what you feel about Benjamin Crump, Reverend Al Sharpton, etc. It's another thing entirely to lump the parents who just lost their child into
I
that
know
equation,
it's
talking about they're trying to profit.
I know
off
it's
this. You
sensitive,
sure you
Stephen
want
A.
to say that? Is what I'm saying.
No,
You sure you want to say that?
Let me be clear about this. You asked me what my thoughts were. I didn't say that
Yes,
that was
I did.
facts. I just said these are my thoughts based on a few factors, right?
Okay.
There ain't no reason for Al Sharpton to be doing that boy's eulogy when Al never knew him.
That's not even your call or your business
But
to make.
what I'm saying is that if I die, my daddy, if I die,
that's you.
Charles,
Respect the choices that family made.
Let him speak.
If I get killed,
that family had a choice.
Why?
And who it is that? Why is that? They don't have to answer to you. That's not.
They
even
don't. But I have an opinion.
That's that family.
Okay.
I don't even understand why who that family chose to eulogize their fallen son.
What is
any of your business to have any commentary about?
Well, you can't tell me that because it don't seem normal. It don't seem normal to me.
Anyone they wanted to.
It don't seem normal. It don't seem normal to me for a man that don't even preach sermons to do a eulogy for a boy that he didn't know.
Okay, we're going off the rails, guys. We're going off the rails. We're going off the rails because Charles, I know you got to get ready to go. We're running out of time, so I'm just going to give this last question to the both of y'all. Officer Tatum, I'm going to give you the word, and then Charles Coleman, I'm going to give you the last word. What are your expectations of what is going to come of this when all is said and done, based on the evidence that we know? Charles, Officer Tatum, I'll go with you first. Charles, I'll give you the last word.
And I'll try to make this succinct. I think we're going to find that the law enforcement agency did a fair investigation, that they did things right all the way through the process, and that none of this will lead to any of what Al Sharpton them said it was and alluded that it was, and they will get to the bottom of what happened to Nolan, and it will be clean, it will be professional, and it will be the same result without the interference with activists and people out here hoodwinking. I think that they're going to find out what happened to Nolan, and it's not going to be Al Sharpton, it's not going to be Benjamin Crump. It's going to be the law enforcement agencies that go out and do this stuff every single day, that does an investigation, that's going to be forensically looked through the cell phone, that's going to interview 60 people and find out what happened to Nolan. And they're going to be able to say, was it somebody that did something nefarious to Nolan? They're going to be prosecuted. If Nolan drowned, they're going to let the family know he drowned. That's going to be the totality of this investigation, which didn't have nothing to do with this race stuff and had nothing to do with these activists coming out and making money on the death of another black boy.